$4.12. That was the exact number. For 8 straight, agonizing months, my primary checking account at Huntington Bank in Columbus, Ohio, sat frozen at $4.12. If a bank account had a pulse, mine was a flat line. I remember staring at that digitized number on my cracked iPhone screen inside a freezing Honda Civic while the heater blowing lukewarm air against my knuckles offered no comfort. It was 3 o'clock on a Tuesday morning in late March. My net worth was negative $44,995.88. Most people look at their bank accounts and see money. I looked at mine and saw a timer ticking down to my destruction. As the second-generation daughter of a single mother who sacrificed her spine in the industrial laundries of Midwest factories, I was raised to believe that a college degree and a steady desk job were the golden tickets to the American dream. I did everything right. I studied accounting, fought my way into a small corporate firm, and religiously paid off my $45,000 student loans dollar by dollar. But the Midwest economy doesn't care about your discipline. When my mother's kidneys failed and the out-of-pocket medical bills hit $1,200 a month beyond what insurance covered, the illusion of financial security vanished overnight. To survive the brutal cash crunch, I did what millions of desperate Americans do. I dove headfirst into the gig economy. I took on freelance coding jobs, built small mobile applications, and drove for rideshare platforms late into the night. My body was operating on 4 hours of sleep, driven by pure cortisol and cheap coffee. What I did not realize was that I was walking straight into a legal landmine. In my arrogance as a corporate accountant, I knew income was just income. I knew how to process W-2 forms for established businesses, but I suffered from a catastrophic blind spot bias regarding personal freelance tax codes. I treated my side hustle earnings like traditional salary, completely ignoring the mandatory quarterly estimated tax payments and the crushing 15.3% self-employment tax imposed by the federal government. The reckoning arrived in a heavy white envelope stamped with official government ink. The letter from the Internal Revenue Service did not just ask for money, it demanded blood. Because of uncollected taxes, accumulated failure to pay penalties, and compounding high-interest debt surcharges, I owed the United States government exactly $12,850. 30 days. That was the deadline. 30 days before the IRS executed a bank levy to seize every red cent in my accounts, followed by a wage garnishment sent directly to my employer. In the financial services sector, having your wages garnished by the government for tax evasion isn't just an inconvenience, it is an automatic termination of your professional license. Losing my day job meant losing my mother's dialysis treatment. It meant total collapse. I still remember the ice in my veins as I sat across from the IRS revenue agent at the Federal Building on Marconi Boulevard. I presented my spreadsheets, my mother's medical receipts, and my clean criminal record. I begged for an unconditional extension or an installment agreement. The agent, a man with tired eyes and a faded navy tie, didn't even look up from his computer monitor. Miss Washington, his voice flat and mechanical, the tax code does not measure hardship, it measures compliance. You have 30 days to settle the $12,850 balance. If you cannot, we will initiate collection actions against your liquid assets and notify your employer. I walked out into the biting Ohio wind, the pavement wet with spring rain. When I returned to my office cubicle, the air felt suffocating. My supervisor casually dropped a folder on my desk, whispering with a smirk that echoed through the carpeted room. Hard to trust an accountant who can't even keep her own books clean, isn't it? The shame was a physical weight, crushing my chest, threatening to snap my ribs. My credit score cratered overnight, dropping below 580. I was radioactive to traditional banking institutions. No personal loans, no credit lines, no safety net. My friends urged me to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, telling me to surrender and wipe the slate clean. But bankruptcy would destroy my career forever. I was trapped in a financial citadel with walls closing in at a rate of $428 a day. 2 weeks before the IRS deadline, with my checking account still holding that pathetic $4.12, I found myself sitting in the corner of a grease-stained garage cafe near an industrial park. I was staring at a laptop screen filled with broken line code, my fingers trembling from exhaustion. Sitting at the counter was Arthur, a 65-year-old retired industrial machinist with grease embedded deep into the creases of his knuckles. He noticed my bloodshot eyes and the stack of red-inked IRS demand notices spread across the table. He didn't offer pity, he offered a brutal truth. "You're trying to solve a systemic problem with manual labor, kid," Arthur said, stirring his black coffee. "You're selling your time by the hour. Time is finite, but debt compounds exponentially. You will always lose that race." Arthur wasn't a Silicon Valley mogul. He was a man who understood physical systems. He pulled out a worn tablet and showed me his digital dashboard. Arthur was generating over $8,000 every single month in pure passive cash flow. He didn't own a factory, he didn't manage inventory, he didn't have employees. All his business consisted of designing digital engineering files, STL and STEP files, for custom 3D printable industrial replacement parts. Out-of-date machinery across America was breaking down daily, and major manufacturers no longer produced the tiny plastic gears, specialized brackets, and custom knobs needed to keep them running. Arthur drew the blueprints once, uploaded them to digital repositories, and let global mechanics pay $5 to $15 per download to print the parts themselves. His marginal cost of production was mathematically zero. "You know how to code apps," Arthur said, leaning in, "and you know how to count money. Combine the two. Stop selling your time. Build an asset that generates cash flow while you sleep." He handed me a small metal USB drive containing 10 sample parametric CAD files and a notebook filled with precise search engine optimization formulas for digital asset platforms. At first, my internal critic fought back. I was desperate, arrogant, and terrified. I threw the USB drive into the bottom of my purse and let it sit there for 10 long, agonizing days. A $5 file? How could selling $5 files clear a $12,000 federal debt in 2 weeks? It sounded like a fantasy. Instead, I tried to force the old way. I ran Facebook ads for freelance accounting services using the last $150 I had scraped together. It was a disaster. 0 clients converted. I lost the $150. My net liquid position dropped to 0. The panic was absolute. Then came the dark moment. 7 days before the IRS levy was set to execute. It was 11:42 p.m. on a rainy Thursday, and I was working in my cramped apartment when the power in the building flickered and surged. A loud pop echoed from my desk. Blue smoke curled out from the cooling vents of my main laptop, the only tool I owned to code applications and do my work. The motherboard was fried. Less than 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was the night nurse at the medical facility. My mother's blood pressure had spiked dangerously during her filtration cycle. She was being rushed to the intensive care unit. They needed a deposit for non-covered specialized medications before the morning shift.
I stood in the dark, smelling the acrid stench of burned copper and silicone, listening to the rain beat against the glass. I walked into the tiny bathroom, sat down on the cold linoleum floor under the harsh fluorescent light, and finally broke. I tore the IRS demand letters into shredded white confetti and wept until my throat was raw. The universe wasn't just testing me, it was actively trying to erase me. I had no money, no working computer, no credit, and 7 days before my life was legally disassembled. When you hit absolute rock bottom, the ego dies, survival takes over. At 3 a.m., driven by a cold, desperate clarity, I walked down into the damp basement storage room of our apartment complex to look for anything I could sell on Craigslist. In the back corner, tucked under an old canvas tarp left behind by my late father, sat an old, dust-covered first-generation desktop 3D printer he had bought at an estate sale years ago, but never figured out how to use. I hauled the heavy machine upstairs. I borrowed an outdated secondary laptop from a neighbor in exchange for promising to do her taxes for free. I plugged in Arthur's USB drive. I didn't just copy his idea. I applied my systems thinking and software skills to scale it instantly. I realized mechanics and factory workers didn't want to spend hours manually measuring broken parts with calipers, so over an intense 36-hour sprint, without a single minute of sleep, I developed a lightweight web browser tool that used a smartphone camera to automatically scan physical dimensions of broken machinery parts and convert them into precise parametric 3D CAD vectors. I created a simple mobile interface and listed it as a freemium utility software tool, charging a $9.99 monthly subscription for advanced export capabilities. Simultaneously, I scanned 25 custom replacement file designs for vintage automotive and industrial machinery that Arthur had helped me identify, uploading the digital blueprints to online engineering marketplaces like Cults 3D and Etsy. For 48 hours, nothing happened. The silence was deafening. The clock read 4 days until the IRS levy. Then the universe shifted. A senior moderator on a massive American classic automotive forum, a digital community of over 200,000 mechanics and restoration enthusiasts, stumbled upon my scanning utility tool. He posted a thread titled, "This $10 app just saved me $3,000 on a custom carburetor bracket." The post exploded. The thread went viral across 3 major industrial subreddits and automotive networks within 12 hours. Server traffic spiked by 5,000%. My phone began vibrating continuously on the desk. Every vibration was a notification chime. $10, $10, $10. Mechanics weren't just subscribing to the mobile app, they were buying the digital 3D blueprints in bundles to print components in their own shops. On Monday morning, 48 hours before the IRS execution deadline, a senior procurement manager from a regional Midwestern commercial refrigeration network sent a direct inquiry through my developer portal. Their technicians were struggling with a discontinued line of commercial refrigeration units across 3 states. They needed my scanning software license and the exclusive commercial distribution rights to my full digital library of 25 custom replacement file blueprints. They didn't want to negotiate. They needed a solution immediately to prevent millions in food spoilage for their commercial clients. They tendered a corporate purchase agreement via electronic wire transfer. The price for the non-exclusive digital license was $18,500. I remember sitting in the Huntington Bank lobby on Tuesday morning, 24 hours before the 30-day deadline expired. The bank officer looked at his terminal, his eyes widening slightly as the incoming wire cleared into my account. I didn't feel joy. I felt a cold, defiant quiet.
I immediately executed an electronic wire transfer of $12,850 directly to the United States Treasury, fully clearing the tax principal, the accrued failure to pay penalties, and every cent of interest. I printed the official IRS payment confirmation receipt, walked directly into my supervisor's office, laid the document flat on his desk without saying a single word, and handed him my written 2-week resignation notice. The remaining $5,650 went straight into an escrow account for my mother's medical care, securing her treatments for the next 5 months. That crisis was not an end. It was the brutal birth of a financial citadel. Over the next 6 months, I refused to return to the trap of living paycheck to paycheck. I took the cash flow generated by the mobile utility app and the digital file library and automated the entire technical pipeline. I spent $0 on lifestyle inflation. I lived on a strict baseline budget, allocating 70% of every dollar earned directly into wealth-building engines. I established a dedicated emergency fund of $10,000 in a high-yield savings account to ensure I would never again be at the mercy of unexpected expenses. Next, I turned my attention to systemic tax mitigation and long-term asset accumulation. I structured a formal legal entity utilizing tax-advantaged retirement accounts like a solo 401k and a Roth IRA. I automated a rigorous dollar-cost averaging strategy, deploying capital every Monday morning into broad market S&P 500 index funds and real estate investment trusts. 6 months after almost losing everything, my automated digital asset system was generating a consistent, high-margin passive cash flow of $4,500 every single month. 1 year after the IRS threatened to destroy my life, my total net worth crossed $120,000. I purchased a small, abandoned industrial shop in suburban Columbus, converting it into a fully automated, unmanned rapid prototyping center driven by solar power and networked 3D printers. Today, my financial portfolio is built not on hope, luck, or speculative gambling. It is built on a diversified digital asset citadel. 3 proprietary SaaS applications generating continuous recurring revenue, a global library of digital manufacturing files selling rights 24/7 with zero marginal cost, and a $150,000 index fund steadily compounding interest behind an unbreakable legal shield. Looking back, that cold March night when my bank account sat frozen at $4.12 was the greatest gift I ever received. The system is designed to keep you on a treadmill, selling your precious time for depreciating currency until your health fails and your energy fades. Taxes, high-interest debt, and inflation are not random tragedies. They are mathematical mechanisms that strip wealth from those who do not understand financial architecture. Do not trade your life for a salary. Convert your knowledge into skills. Convert your skills into scalable digital assets, and let those assets fight for your freedom every second of every day, long after you have gone to sleep.